Hello. Why am I doing an accent? I don't know. It just came out a little bit. Alright. Come on. Come on. Whatever that is, leave it alone. God damn. Alright. That's better. Alright. So this is Snoofter Vision. The last of 2024. And the reason for this Snoofter Vision is because I have some questions. Alright. This is the interview from, this is the big long question, or questions I got from Infernal Alps. Alps 1. Alright. It goes like this. Well, Zacor's up 110. I didn't even know where to begin with this after roller coaster of a video. First of all, I just want to know, twig or dead snake? Okay, so to answer that question, astronauts, I apologize if I'm butchering it. To answer that question, I came in here, it was a rather cold day, and there was a piece of either dry, it was like either a stick or it was dry grass, and it was all wiggly, and it looked like a snake that had been frozen to death in the cold weather. It wasn't, it was just a stick. Okay, so that's that one. The thing really threw me for a loop because on how often do you mistake a twig for a snake? Like, is that a common thing for you? No, it is not. Also, I was walking when I saw it. Whoa! Earl, what are you doing? Alright, come on. Do you just go around looking at twigs and thinking they might be dead snakes? No, I don't. And speaking of snakes, what's your stance on the whole Indiana Jones thing, hates snakes? Well, Indiana Jones hates snakes. If you see the third film, let's not talk about the 2 films that came after that, but when you see the third film, when he's running on the circus train, at one point, he falls into a big bin, or a big wooden container of snakes. And River Phoenix is like, ah, ah! And that's where his fear of snakes came from. Do you think it's justifiable? Well, I mean, if you had a bad experience, yeah. I mean, I love snakes, but like, doesn't mean I'm gonna go cuddle up to them. And so, let's see, what was next? Or is it kind of overplayed at this point? Well, I feel that fear of snakes is a legit fear, because, you know, they're not the cuddliest creatures, and, you know, so much mythology about the snake being evil and stuff like that. And people fear most snakes are venomous, when in actuality, I don't know how many venomous snakes there are, but, you know, not every snake is venomous, but it is still good to exercise caution when you are around a snake. They can still bite. But I feel like snakes get a bad rap in general, you know. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. What exactly is the early bird special you mentioned? So, the early bird special for me is basically when I walk Earl in the morning on a school day. Usually my nephew's getting ready and people are getting ready in the house to go to work and stuff. So when I do the early bird special, it's that I walk Earl through Eibs Pond really early in the morning so that he can get his energy out and he can go do his business and stuff. When I come back in the house, he'll be able to be calm and we can sleep in a bit more. So that's the early bird special. And to answer your question, is it a meal? Is it a dinner meal or something like that? No, it is not. It's just a morning activity. moving forward, I'm generally curious because I feel like this whole backstory I'm missing here, there's not much to it. I just called it the early bird special because I thought that would make sense, since it's like I'm coming into the park to walk Earl at the crack of dawn, where a lot of birds are also getting up in the morning and like starting their hunts and stuff like that. So that's the whole reason why I called it the early bird special. So then, here's continuing on. I couldn't help but wonder, do you ever stop to think about how weird is it that the sun doesn't actually move? Like, the earth, that's spinning, but we all just go along with saying the sun is rising or setting. Isn't that just kind of crazy? When do you really think about it? And speaking of ponds, do you think the geese... Alright, so back to the sun thing. Well, yeah. I mean, if you go to school and stuff like that, they tell you how, you know, the earth revolves around the sun, not the other way around. Sorry, flat earthers, the earth is round and the earth revolves around the sun. So, moving on, do I ever think the geese and ducks ever get jealous of each other? I wouldn't know. I would not know. I wouldn't know. I don't know, because I don't speak geese and I don't speak duck. Oh, listen to that, there are some ducks over there. So, I wouldn't necessarily be able to answer that question, because, I mean, the only way I could think that they'd be jealous of each other is for territory, like hunting grounds and stuff like that. Wow, look, the water has come back to this pond. That's good. Ah! So, as you wrote, man, I wish I could quack like that duck over there. Or are they just content with their honking? And what's the deal with fancy ducks you mentioned? Are they like aristocrats of waterfowl world? Do they look down on regular ducks, or they just get along? Now, the answer to that question, I was just saying they were fancy ducks because they were migratory birds that I wasn't used to seeing. Since adopting Earl here, I've been coming to Eibs Pond to walk him a lot. And I knew at one point when I was going to be walking him, I would most likely see different birds as the season changed because of migration. So, the one day I come into Eibs Pond, I see some, I believe they were called bufflehead ducks. I can't remember. Or they were ruffleneck ducks. I can't remember off the top of my head. The ones I can remember off the top of my head was that later on I saw ringneck ducks, and then my favorite, the one that I was really excited to see, was the hooded merganser. Now, the other birds that hang out here that I really like are the great blue herons. They're really pretty and they're always fun to see. It's nice to see that, ooh, look, the water has come back to the pond. That major dry area has filled up. So, I don't know, to answer your question when you say, do they look down on other ducks? I don't know if ducks or hooded mergansers or birds in general are capable of feeling pride. Now, I know they may be prideful in the sense of their plumage against other males, but like whether that pride in their looks goes to whether or not that goes to beyond that, to where they're like, oh, I'm a hooded merganser, well, you're just a simple little mallard. I don't think so. Who knows? And to answer your question, they just get along? Pretty much. There was like several different types of birds all hanging out in the main pond area, and they relatively got along. They didn't really fight I really didn't see them fighting each other over territory or anything like that. Alright, so that's the first page of questions. All right. By the way, I totally get you getting mean about people getting randomly mad on the internet. Like, what is up with that guy so worked up about wild turkeys? To answer that question, I don't know, man. Basically, the guy was like trying to say that, like, I had filmed the video of the turkeys flying in the tree, and this guy was like, well, yeah, they can fly. It's like, yeah, I know that, but not everybody does. And he was like, you should try wild turkey. It's really tasty. And it's like, I wouldn't know. Last time I checked, I heard they're very gamey. And he was like, well, define gamey. And I gave him the Google definition, and he got really offended. And then he was like saying that, you know, I don't know what I'm talking about. And like, I'm trying to like educate him and stuff like that. It was like, he was inferring a lot of stuff that I had not even put into words in my comments, and he was just being really mean and nasty. And I felt like saying, all right, if wild turkey is so good, you can come to Staten Island, you can find a turkey, you can kill it, not get caught by the cops, and cook it. Tell me how it tastes, because in Staten Island, the turkeys here, they might as well be glorified, oversized pigeons. They get into all sorts of garbage and filth and stuff like that. They're not eating like stuff. If they were living in a rural area like upstate New York or like the backwoods of the United States or somewhere in Appalachia, that's fine. They're living in New York City, so there's a lot of stuff that they're gonna eat and get into. They probably wouldn't be safe to eat. Like, you can have pigeon, which is technically called squab. You can have pigeon, but if you're eating squab, it's not the rock dove pigeon. That's the technical name of the pigeons that you see all around the world. It's definitely not going to be the pigeon you see sitting outside your house in the morning. It's going to be raised on a farm. And even let's say there was a wild pigeon you could eat, you definitely wouldn't want it be coming from New York City. All right, come on. Oh, look at that. Oh, cool. I got the last geese. I got the footage of I got my last footage of 2024 of the geese coming in for a landing. How serendipitous. All right. So, where was I? Like, what's up with the guy getting so worked up? Wild turkeys. Who even has that much energy to argue about turkeys of all things? And why was he calling you boy? That's just weird. I don't know why he was calling me boy. I felt that was really insulting, because it's like, you know, I did not use those words against him. I was addressing him as an adult. And like that boy term, it just made me feel like it was wildly inappropriate, you know, like, do you think he was trying to sound like some kind of old-timey villain from a Western movie or something? Who knows? I don't know what he was going for. And speaking of old-timey stuff, you ever thought about the weird that people used to use carrier pigeons to send messages? No, I don't think that was necessarily too weird. They were carrier pigeons, and pigeons in general, and most birds, are actually quite smart, and you can train them to do many things. And I mean, during World War I, there was many pigeons who got medals of honor for bravery by, you know, flying across enemy lines and flying through battle zones to deliver a message. And, you know, to be a carrier pigeon in the time of World War I was like the most precarious job you could ever have as a bird, because they knew what these birds were doing. So basically, if they saw the carrier pigeon take off, they knew they were trying to send a message, and all they had to do was just shoot it out of the sky, and they'd be screwed. So, I do like what you said. Oh yeah, let's just tie this letter to a bird and hope it gets to the right place. And now we have texting, so it's like, who even is the point of pigeons anymore? What is the point of pigeons anymore? Don't know. Because most of the pigeons we all see were all birds that were, I know there's probably a better term for it, but they were like decorative birds. They were domesticated and made to look pretty. So yeah, that's what that is all about. Now they're just feral. And now we have texting. Back to the video, when you said that is a pretty shot, I couldn't help but think, are you a photography enthusiast? Yes, I am. I am a photography enthusiast. Or was that a passing comment? No. I am a photography enthusiast. I have, from my grandfather on my mom's side, I have a Yashica Electro 135. I believe that's what its name is. But I love using that camera, but unfortunately, it is kind of complicated in the sense that it has a battery they don't make anymore. So in order to get the battery, I have to order it specifically online, and it's not cheap. And other than that, I know the type of battery it needs. When my new job starts, I could try to get a new battery. Oh wait, I can't. The screw for the battery capsule, it stripped itself again, and it won't stay in place. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to get that camera fixed, but that requires me to have money to do so. Hopefully in the future I will. So most of the time when I do photography, I have two pinhole cameras. I have one that does normal shots, and I have one that does wide angle panoramic shots. And the reason why I like pinhole cameras is they don't need a battery. It's just film and light. So that part makes it very simple. Oh look, there's the geese. So that part's pretty simple. It's just a little wooden box with a pinhole, and it works like that. Alright, so or all of this just shot on your phone. Most of the time when I make these videos, they are shot on my phone because it's a lot easier to try to, you know, hold my phone and do the video. But for this one, as you can see, I'm not using my phone. I'm using my GoPro for Snoofter vision for Earl, so that I can hold my phone and answer your questions. And do you ever think about how wild is that phones can record video now? Yeah, that is pretty interesting because, you know, like, I'm a millennial. I was born in 1992, and I remember when cell phones came out. My first cell phone was that Nokia thing that everybody jokes about, how, like, if you could make it into a battering ram and stuff like that. I had that Nokia, and, you know, when you think about that phone, it did not take pictures, it did not send text messages. All it was good for was making phone calls. And if it had any games on it, the most games it had was like, that one had this really fun game where you were that one had this game where you were you were a parachuter, and you were jumping out of a plane, and you had to fly through these rings to collect points. That was like the most cool game that the phone had. And then there, you know, like, you had your traditional snake game and stuff like that. Like, there was a time when that sounded like science fiction. Yeah, that's very true. And speaking of science fiction, have you ever watched Doctor Who? No, not really, not at all. I've only seen a very small handful of episodes, and the episodes I have seen, to answer your question, what is your favorite Doctor? David Tennant, because he's the only one I've actually seen multiple times, and I like him. He's also a very talented actor, but maybe that's just me. Anyway, when you started talking about the path to the right, I was initially intrigued, but when you said it was overgrown, Earl, cut it out, Earl. So that path to the right leads back to Moselle Avenue, and on the day of me making that video and you posing that question, it was very overgrown, and I couldn't proceed through the path. By that point, like, the path just instantly disappeared, and all it was just heavy brush, and there had been some downed trees, so it made it impossible to navigate that one. Oh, I feel like this whole video has a David Tennant kind of vibe. Well, thank you. Maybe that's just me. All right. Anyway, you started talking about the path to the right. I was really intrigued, but then you said it was overgrown. I couldn't help but wonder, do you ever carry a machete or something for situations like that? No, I don't, because I don't know how legal it is to try to chop down obstructions along paths in New York City parks. So I wouldn't try to do that. So that, yes, that would be too extreme. And what's the deal with everyone having thorns? Is that just how nature works? Yeah, I wouldn't know per se, because I haven't studied plants, but a lot of plants do have thorns as a protection measure from predators, or just, you know, protection in general from, you know, animals that may want to, I want to say predators, plants don't have predators, you know, like animals that would want to chew on it or try to eat it. If it's got thorns, they'll think twice about it. And what's the deal with everything having thorns? Is that just how nature works in this area, or is this some kind of weird curse? Nah, it's not a weird curse. It's nature working as it intended. Also, who is Earl? Is that a person, or are we talking about a dog here? That is Earl. Say hi, Earl. Earl. Good boy. That's Earl. He's my dog. He's the one that got me inspired to start walking around in Eibs Pond. I feel like Earl is a big part of this adventure, and I'm just dying to know more about him. Oh no, the robocalls, what's up with that? Okay, so let's give a little bit about Earl. I know I've mentioned it before, but Earl, no come la herba. No come la herba. Earl is a Catahoula Leopard Dog Pit Bull mix. He just turned 2 this past October, and I adopted him from the ASPCA, and he's my good little boy when he wants to be. He can still misbehave. All right, so this is Earl, and he's the whole point of me going to Eibs Pond. And now I'm getting to the end of your questions and the robocalls. What's up with that? Do you think it's just a secret underground robocall conspiracy theory, or it's just a bunch of random companies being annoying? Well, actually, when it comes to most robocalls, a lot of robocalls are seedy organizations where they're trying to steal your identity, or they're trying to pretend to be a company that they're not and just either rip you off or steal your identity. A lot of robocalls would be like, hey, you owe the IRS this much money, and if you don't do it, we're going to come arrest you. So there's a lot of that go around. I always wonder what it would like to mess with a person on the other end. There are people who do that. Don't know their names off the top of my head, but there are YouTubers who spend a lot of time basically screwing over the scam artists. Oh, and okay, I know this is totally off topic. Have you mentioned the glass bottle? It makes me think, do you ever collect weird little things you find along your walks? No, I don't. Unless it's really interesting, I'm not going to. I have enough stuff in my house. Because I feel that would be such a cool thing to do, but also maybe a little cluttered. Yeah, I have a lot of clutter. Speaking of clutter, what is your stance on minimalism? I love minimalism. I was an architect major in high school, and I was really big on minimalism, and I really was big on Frank Lloyd Wright's, you know, form follows function. But Frank Lloyd Wright is almost kind of like the opposite at times, because if you have a Frank Lloyd Wright house, he just picked out all this art and stuff that he would put on the walls and stuff like that, and you're stuck with it. And you can't, if you own a Frank Lloyd Wright house, you can't move the artwork because that's where it's intended to be. And you also can't put up new artwork because you get to live in a museum you call a home. That's basically what it's like to live in a Frank Lloyd Wright house. Also, I have to say, the whole Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 thing at the end was just a cherry on top. Yeah, I actually, as of now, I did it yesterday. I watched Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 while listening to Dark Side of the Moon at the same time, and it wasn't really that fun. Paul Blart Mall Cop Part 2, or the Paul Blart 2 was really boring, and at times very hard to watch because the actor who plays Paul Blart is talented and he can do really good stuff. But the dialogue he was given, or the dialogue he was working with, was really bad. And when he was like, every time he would like have like that forced conversation with the female love interest, it was always bad. That's just next level creativity. But now I'm wondering, have you tried it with other movies? Because I feel like Santa Claus 3 might actually work surprisingly well. I did do the Santa Claus 3 recent, and it was really funny. At one point, Santa says Silver Bells at the exact same time the Pink Floyd song Time starts, with all the bells and clocks going off. So that was really cool. Totally ran Jurassic Park. Haven't done that yet. Sound of Music, that'd be really weird. Do you think it would sync up to those two? Don't know yet. We can always try. I feel like this could be a whole new YouTube trend. Yeah. Anyway, this comment is probably way too long already. Don't worry about it. And just had so many thoughts while watching this video. Keep up the good work. I can't wait to see a random vector go on next. Why, thank you. Oh, and one last thing. Do you think turkeys ever get jealous of chickens? Like, turkeys are bigger, but chickens seem to get all the attention. Just to think about it. I don't think they're jealous of chickens because turkeys know when they're gonna die. They know when... Turkeys know when the Grim Reaper's coming for them. I mean, so do chickens, but I mean, like... Chickens get killed on every day. Turkeys know there's a very specific day of the year they're all gonna die. Alright, so that's it. Happy New Year, everybody. And this is the last Eibs Pond of 2024. Hopefully we'll still have a country in 2025. And talk to you guys soon.